Up until now, I've been inclined to view Zizek's thinking on Heidegger as simply wrong. I've changed my view. I think we should instead look at his view in the light of the problem in the Theaetatus. So around 191, the addressing of the claim that the common thinking with the Greeks, which would readily gain assent, was to be upheld. Socrates says, I've had second thoughts about that, and now I'm thinking, in the light of the phenomena, it seems that one does know the things that one doesn't know. Or stated more completely, one can think, a reasonable person can think or hold the, or let's say opine, that one knows the things that one doesn't know. The example there given is I see someone in the distance, or someone sees someone in the distance, they know, and they take it to be Socrates was someone that they know. So therefore, what do they see in the distance? Someone that they know, Socrates. Therefore, they know the thing they see, which is actually something they don't know, because then it's revealed that they made a mistake and it was someone else. Some unknown X was taken to be Socrates, but taken in directly when it's happening, we're seeing Socrates, so we're seeing something we don't know. So it's let me give some other examples. So I'm thinking here, when Zizek says Heidegger is a transcendental historicist, so that instead of space and time, the history of a given Dasein, Greek Dasein, medieval Dasein, or current Dasein, is put in as the condition for any possible experience or for intelligibility. That's his false claim, misguided claim. But that's what he knows. That's what he sees there. So we know the thing that we don't know. And how could it be otherwise? So then we should change our common sense, or as it were, the dogma or the standing opinion of Das Man to fit in with that, I would say. But that doesn't mean that we can stay with the standing opinion of Das Man even when we so corrected it. Heidegger's point is we have to go again and again to the phenomena, because there's always something worth thinking, even in the commonplace. There's always something still there to be thought, and therefore we have to go to the phenomena rather than rehearse the ethos opinion, which would gain an easy consent with knowledgeable people everywhere. I give a couple other examples like this. So, for example, I had a few, on several different occasions, I tried to bring across to someone that the phrase "for whom the bell tolls" comes from John Donne, from his book, which is called something like Devotions Upon Emergent Occasions. But the person with whom I was speaking knew that that title was written by Hemingway. So there's a slight subtlety. Hemingway did use that title as the title of his book, but he lifted it from John Donne. But this person knew, and therefore they knew what they didn't know, that John Donne didn't write that title. He knew that John Donne didn't write that title. All explanation, all attempts to get this through failed because he already knew that John Donne did not write that title, and he was just listening to somebody talking nonsense. Okay, I'll give another example. Someone had a kind of plausible theory that worked out in their own thinking, something that made some sense, which was the notion that Catholics did something like usury, because their notion was, why would you send somebody away on a ship unless you expected to get paid back? Like, you give them the ship as though like money, and why would you put yourself out like that, at risk like that, endure those transaction costs, as it later became understood under the Coase theorem. Why would you worry about that unless you're going to make interest on this? So every attempt to adduce to this person evidence that Catholics have always been against usury, and that in fact this plays a big role in history, failed. So I tried to bring out that if we make a distinction between usury, predatory loan, and speculation, business speculation, you can then easily see what's the difference. The difference is, in speculation, if you give someone a ship and outfit it for them, you only get paid if the venture pays off. That's speculation. If the venture doesn't pay off, you're out of money. Usury, it could be exactly the same thing, but you're supposed to get paid no matter what happens. I think that it's a very straightforward, simple distinction, but this person absolutely could not hear that because they knew that their theory had a certain sense to it. So it did have a certain sense to it. They knew their theory, so they knew what they didn't know. They put what they knew in front, and that's, or I take that back. They didn't put what they knew in front. What they knew was there in front. They, just as someone who sees Socrates, or just as Socrates walking about in the phenomena in being, is that knowledge. So this is, so the approaches to, so then of course you could always say, but how can you be sure that your notion of Heidegger is closer to Heidegger himself, who says, I've been universally misunderstood, or something, some words to that effect. So this, I think, Parmenides, the proper understanding of Parmenides is good here. It's not that knowledge is relative, but it's that we each only have this knowledge that we have. I think that's the proper understanding of Parmenides. So this issue, approaching this issue with Heidegger, I think we can also bring in the question of whether, so through that we should ask, is there really this distinction between the repeated, memorized, dogmatic positions, which is to say, it's a contradiction to say that someone can know what they don't know, And therefore, without looking at the phenomena, we can dismiss it out of hand because we know that contradictions are wrong. And instead of looking at the examples like the several examples I just gave, we can just know from the standing um, truth, that which is taken to be true, or we could call it a truism in the light of the fact that it was supposedly broken through while we were looking at the phenomena, or we were looking at what really happens. So this, the Sukarion or the memory uh, person who stands in the thing that's been said and is often said and often easily gains a sense, then goes and looks at the phenomena and they say, wait, it's different from how it looked. So is this distinction true, and in what way is it true? I think the whole of Heidegger in some way stands on that, or at least it's a central question we could bring in. And a number more or less nuanced subtleties can be raised in connection to that. And so especially Nietzsche in the Truth and Lies in an extramoral sense, pointing out that this kind of question is totally anthropomorphic. So why isn't even attempting to make any distinction simply part of his so-called mobile army of metonymies and metaphors and radically individual placing together of memories into nexuses and into networks.